Alright, so we can get started with the files at least. That's the easy part. So the data set, it's the same data set that we've been working on. It should be on your desktop. So open up the data set, and we're going to actually get the chapter 6 data set. So open that up.
Chapter 6?
Yes, chapter 6, even though we're going to be going through chapter 1. Chapter 6, and just easiest way, I always just right click, copy, or drag and drop, and put it in CE projects. I'm not going to do it because I already copied it over last night, but just paste right there. If you already have this folder, you may want to delete that first. Now without my book in front of me, I think we need the GKLNRD file. So go ahead and open SS4, and you can open that file. So we're doing, even though I'm pulling you out with chapter 6 data set, that's because it's complete for chapter 1. So what we want to do is we're not really going to follow the exercises in the book. We're going to be following the exercises as outlined here, but I'm just really going to demo it to you because it's a little bit involved to go through it. So, something that is worth doing on your own. But let me kind of show you how it's doing conceptually first. So basically, the concept is that you have to, you need to have your DTM files, all those files prepped, and then you're going to model the existing features. Thank you. And to do that, you basically need to create shapes for all the existing features, and then you're going to add some intelligence to those data, to those shapes, and like depth to your pavement, for example, that sort of thing. And so then these are steps also that are shown in chapter 1. We can look at cross sections, and then you can add also right-of-way lines. It's just a line essentially on a plan, but in order to show up in a cross section, you have to make it a 3D line, so it has to be a line with a profile attached to it. Same with utilities, it's a similar concept. If you don't show it some other way, you can just show a line, take the line in 2D and add a profile to it at a certain depth. So this is kind of the first step. Again, we've already done this, but I'm just gonna go through these quickly so you can see an overview of this. Since this is chapter 1 in the book, but things are a little bit different. So I can also give you guys a copy of this presentation afterwards if you want to see this. It is attached on the webinar. But so yeah, we create the GKLNRD file first, and just kind of shows the steps right here and all the settings that you need to set in this window. Roadway design files, pick your project, and so you create that. That's pretty straightforward. I think you guys are familiar with the create files. We've done that enough times this week. Then the next tool is, we'll call it create existing features tool that you're going to run, and that one. Basically, I think we did that one already, didn't we? Didn't we do that one on Monday? Maybe I was just playing with it, but yeah, that one just attaches the serve RD file for you. So you just click this button when you have the blank file, the GKLNRD, and then you just click create existing features. Select your serve RD if it asks for it, and it may find it automatically, and it'll just run for a few minutes and copy everything over. So that one's pretty straightforward. Once it copies it over, you're going to see, serve RD. Now this is done a little bit differently. This is done the old way, so it just has the topo, but it should add topo and drainage existing, utilities existing, different logical names. So it should be attached like 4 different times.
Yeah, if you select view 1, you'll see them all attached.
Which file did you open?
There we go. That could be the problem. This is GKLNRD.
What data set folder?
It's chapter 6.
Yeah.
All it's going to do is give you these 4 references. So you'll see all your server ID attached, and the other ones are hidden here, so you can turn them off and on as you need.
Yeah, can I just clarify one thing?
Sure.
If you go to the plan development task over there and go to the existing features, if you hover over the first one, that is the tool for attaching survey reference files, which is what essentially this does. This attaches those 4. This next tool is the custom app that was created for us to be able to automate creating shapes.
Yeah, I think that slide. Sorry, it was a little bit wrong. You're right. That is the attached survey reference files. That's the button that you would run
That's
first.
when I'll bring all 4 files at once.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you're right. I'm just getting ahead of myself. So yeah, the existing features application is the next tool that you would want. And that one is, this one I think has already found the server ID file, so if it asks for it, you can select it. But that one you will select which features you want to add. That looks like my pavement edge, but I don't know why it's on miscellaneous 3. The idea being here that you just go through each feature, whatever's present in your topo file, your pavement in this one, and your curb, because we also have curb and gutter on the existing features. Any of the features that are on there, just go through and add them. And these should be set up in this file already. Just turn off the references to make sure. Okay, you can see they've been copied over already, so that's what your result with once you run it. So it's not going to work too well since it's already run on this file. All right, this one I can go through for adding right-of-way lines. No, we did the copy reference file levels, didn't we? Sounds like we used that tool too.
We did attach survey reference files.
No, but I mean, well, I think we did on Monday, but
yeah,
we have.
Oh, okay.
We attach, yeah, we did it from the menu.
So I'll just do a quick demo, but so this one, we already have the RWDT file attached for our right-of-way lines. I think the level is turned off. Let's see if these right-of-way lines have already been attached. Not supposed to do that. Do you think I need to run clear crash after that? That's just VBA error.
It just didn't launch that VBA.
Try one more time.
That time it didn't.
Alright, so you'd go to design apps, reference files, copy reference file levels. You do need to have this turned on. Go in here and it should be on RW line _ EP. Add selected levels, hit the plus, and process. So if it crashes, you guys all know the crew. Yeah, when it crashes, you guys all know the clear crash, so just run that. I have to demo that tool. Well, that's opening up. So the next step would be, well, here's an illustration of existing features. I think I got these out of order, but it's kind of what I already showed. But the next step after that is going to be creating shapes. So you have to basically close the shapes, and all the tools are. Get this out of the way. All the tools are also in the existing features. You can get to them using the normal MicroStation tool locations, and I can show you where those are as well. But this is kind of handy because you have these three tools here. So you place feature line tool, and then you create feature shapes by flood. So for step one is create the after you've added the feature that you need into the file, you can place feature line tool using this one right here to close out your shapes. So if there's any driveways, for example, and you're doing the asphalt pavement, you need to draw a line across the driveways and make sure there's no gaps. And then you can use the create feature shapes by flood and flood that shape. So I can demo that if this is running yet. Another important note is the tolerance value, which I can show you if I can get the tool to come up. So you can use. So here's your place feature line, create feature shape by flood, or you can trace it out. But I'm just gonna demo the flood method because that's a lot quicker. These are also located under civil tools. You could just go horizontal geometry and just use your line between points or other line tools to close up your shapes. So I'm going to do a demo shape for pavement. Just separately. Trying to do an example where if you had the existing features, you had driveways and that sort of thing in here. All right, so let's say that's your existing features that you'd have in. So you need to come in here and close up the lines at the ends as the limits of your project. As well as every driveway. Then you can come in here and use the middle tool, which is the create shapes by flood. And I probably have a gap in there, which is probably why it didn't work. So then it highlights it. You can accept, left click to accept. And you're not going to see much difference when you do it. I mean, this one, it does show a complex shape at this point. That's about the only difference you're going to see. So that's just first step, getting your shapes in there. The next step is you can use those shapes to clip your existing ground DTM. So in this case, I'm not sure if the DTM extends to this level. I think it does. So I may be able to demo that. It is attached. That's what I was trying to check. So I'm outside the limits in this one, so I can't really demo it for that. Let's see if I got any pavement shapes here. So this particular one, since we're doing chapter 6, we have all the models created, all the shapes created already. So they're showing up in Project Explorer. So let's look at US 98 pavement. So I'm just going to go back to this since it's difficult to demo this at the moment. So your steps that you basically go through, use the Clip Terrain tool under existing features, and you get the options. For example, if you're doing the pavement, you want to set your clipping method to external. Whereas if you're taking out islands from the middle of the pavement, then you change your clipping method to internal. Those are the main differences. Usually you wouldn't have an offset, and then you can just name your existing feature, use a feature definition like existing feature, whatever is appropriate. Then accept.
Can you just explain, I'm sorry, but can you explain what the Create Existing Features tool does for us versus just manually creating the shapes ourselves?
This tool.
Yeah, so like we select pavement.
This one is defining your It's defining your attributes. I think that's the main thing.
Oh, okay.
See, this is already on
Oh, I see.
pavement asphalt level.
Gotcha.
Whereas if I want to do curb, you notice it changes all the levels. So really, it's just making it a little bit quicker to.
Oh.
Yeah,
do
we developed that tool to kind of automate. When we first rolled this procedure out, it was foreign to people to go in and create the existing feature model. And then, of course, you get all the lines in from the serve.rd file, with all topo lines all over the place, right? And we knew that there was a focused set of things that we would always create the existing feature models on: pavement, curbs, sidewalk, shoulders, all that stuff. So we wrote a little app. This is the app that would just filter out just that information and help you build shapes. It helps you automate the shapes instead of having to do it manually. But you can always do it manually if you know what you're doing. But this was a tool just for beginners to learn how to do it.
It filters out the noise.
Yeah.
Anything you don't need to be looking at, you might be snapping to the wrong item and so you're kind of flood areas, right?
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you look at the book that kind of goes through the manual method, that's why I'm trying to kind of show this method, because it's a little bit quicker and easier. Books get a lot of extra steps. You have to every time you.
So the book doesn't necessarily. We haven't updated the book with a new method, even though we do have another workflow. We have another book kind of just for this chapter. So there's lots of documents out there for helping automate this process.
So when you clip your terrain, this is what you get. This is actually a surface template, so that's a step ahead. But you get your DTM clipped to here. Let me see if I can turn that back on. It should still be. Probably. No, it's overlapping, so you can't
The
really see
easiest
it.
way would be to go to Project Explorer and turn off your features for corridor components and update the view.
I don't know where that is.
Go to Civil Standards. Go to the design file. Go to feature definitions.
Oh,
and
that's
check the corridor components. And then update the view with Paintbrush. And there's just all the top terrain.
Is that the GDTM?
That is the clippings from the GDDT.
Yeah. So this one has been, you've created the shapes for the existing pavement, and then you've clipped it with this. So this one is an external clipping boundary on the edge of pavement, and then internal boundaries cutting out the traffic separators, the right turn island, median, all of those features have been removed. Update that.
So quick question, can you go over the difference between GKLN and GDTM again? Those are confused. GKLN is a survey?
GKLN, the idea is it's your lines file, and I think that's what the LN stands for. Whereas the GDTM is just your surface file.
Yeah, so traditionally we've created the existing terrain in the GDDTM file, right? And then we created a new file to build your existing features model. So you have the GDDTM, which is just the skin surface that was surveyed. And then you're going to build another file, which is actually the 3D objects of the existing features below them. So that's the difference between the two files. And survey doesn't deliver the existing features model. That is created in design. Just like we used to use, well, some of you may not remember, but the whole point of this operation is that in the plans preparation manual, now that the FDOT design manual, it states that when you display cross-section, you should show the existing features below ground. The only way to get anything on a cross-section is to have it in a model. So in the old days, we would just use criteria statement, JPAC criteria statements to go in and read the topo file and draw lines, and it was all automated. So in order to replicate that same process in the new workflow, we have to actually build the features, the entire features, in an existing features model, which is what we're using this JPAC line stock for, which is the GKLNRD file.
So when you cut cross sections, it's using GKLN
Yep.
and the GDTM, right? They both
Yep.
are referenced into.
Yep.
So one's looking at the surface and one's looking at like the right-of-way lines and pavement lines and all that.
One will have just the terrain like you normally see,
Right.
but if you need to see anything below the terrain, you'll have to attach the GKLNRD existing features model, which is what this
Yeah, and
is.
ultimately, I turn this back on. That shows it the shapes. This has had a depth applied to it. So this is your existing pavement depth. So this shows up on the cross section as X number of inches of existing pavement. The curb shows up. Now this has had a template applied. So I'm not going to try to demo this today. We'll learn how to do templates, and maybe if we have time, I can demo that after we do chapter 9. So after
So
we're
if you cut
done.
cross sections without the GKLN, all you'll see is just a single line, basically, just the terrain. Is that it?
Yeah. If you didn't have this file, you'd have no existing features, so you wouldn't be called out anyway. So. Yeah. Otherwise, you just have the existing. You just one line for the existing ground as well as your proposed features. Those would show up because you have a 3D model for it. But you can see that even the traffic separator has some depth to it. I rotate it. You can see how it sticks out above.
Totally random. Where's that Project Explorer tab again? I always lose that.
F11 is the quickest way to bring it up.
Thank you.
You can also bring it up here from the file menu if you forget the shortcut.
Thanks.
There's also an icon up there.
Oh yeah, this icon right
Right
here,
next to that information.
Where's
That's
that?
the fourth way.
Oh.
right up,
No, I
right
know.
beside element information.
We're missing one. That's only three.
What's the fourth one then, Todd?
Yeah.
There's always 3 ways in there.
3 ways or 4 ways?
Do we have a shortcut? Do we have a shortcut in here?
No, there's actually we could pull down.
And then, we got file.
Menu, function
Menu,
key,
function key.
icon.
So you got
Let's get created happy.
What'd you say? Menu,
Menu.
Crayons.
function key.
Well, surely it's in task too, right?
Then there's Todd's way. Todd's way is the fourth one.
And then you can just
Whichever one you want.
Whichever one you want.
Pick 3 options.
you could ask Todd. We haven't got the audio working. Just like Siri, you can just say, Todd, where is the Project Explorer?
Yes. That's right.
Todd, where did that set
So yeah, so that tool that you would want to clip the terrain is right here. You see you have your internal or external depending on which boundary you need to clip. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I think the book does go over this. If you want to do it on your own, it's clipping existing terrain is exercise 1.6. Yeah, but I don't think we're gonna take time to do it right now. It does show the difference though between internal and external, but I think the thing to keep in mind is external you can only clip once, so you can only have one boundary. So that would be like this example. Okay, your edge of pavement just one shape, so that'd be your external clip. Whereas internal you can do multiple at once. So if you have multiple traffic separators, as this road would, you can once you've created a shape for each of these traffic separators, you can then use those shapes to do your internal clip. So you just select them multiple as you're running this tool and use the internal clipping method. Of course, you'd set your
The terrain.
feature definition. So to DTM existing feature. So once you have those clipped, and your 3D view should look like this once they're clipped. Then you can add surface templates, which there you're going to define the depth. So this example is your existing pavement here. So
Pretty obvious, right? Big giant square.
opening, I should be able to demo this. But you open existing features template, and then you can select whichever existing feature applies. You know, if it's curb, but curb is going to be done differently. But usually it's just going to be your pavement or sidewalk, and set a depth to it. So this needs to be brought up under the SS4 template library as opposed to your project-specific template library. So we'll just have to open that up. Should be under C, SS4, GeoPack, corridor. Oops. Existing feature templates. So this is probably the simplest template there is, because it's just a rectangle. This is also one of the exercises in there. That's 1.8 in the book. And I think that one's still fairly accurate. But this wouldn't necessarily set your depth. This one just applies generic depth, so you want to apply that first, and then you will set your depth. So once this just opens the existing features. So to apply the existing feature, you apply surface template, select the template you need. So you need to make sure you have that library open first with the other tool. Then you can select the template from the library using this tool. And if you click the three-dot button to browse, you can open up this window and pick it. And then use this tool. Then you just select the boundary. So let me see if it'll let me do that without having to. I'll still have this open. All right, so I've selected the template library. Let's say I want to apply a surface template to existing pavement. Probably not going to let me, because this is already done.
You want to pick it in 3D.
That's what I'm doing wrong.
There you go.
So yeah, you just pick it in the 3D view. Thank you. That's a good point. And it might help if you pick a template. So hit your domino. Existing feature template. This one's pavement existing. So you can see it selects the existing feature. Probably see it easier here. So this is the shape that was created for the existing pavement. And of course this is the DTM.
That color signifies that it's all bound and there's no gaps, right?
Yeah, well, I mean the shape was already created, so we know there's no gaps because the shape's created, but it's just highlighting the shape, and you can accept to make sure that it's just the right shape. So then you've applied the surface. Then you have to set your depth. And for that one, a couple ways to do it. And one way is click edit. You know, most of these tools are set up so you just kind of go in a workflow across the bar. So this is kind of the same way. You know, you click the terrain first, you open your surface, you open your template, and then you apply the template. Now we're editing a template. And so you can do it that way through that tool, or you can go into Project Explorer and right-click on the template underneath the terrain model and choose Edit and Apply Surface Template. So 2 ways to get there. So let's just go through this one. So we edit the template.
We'll turn them off.
That would be the problem. And to get the depth, you actually need to go
Switch the tab down there to active template.
that's what I was missing.
The difference between that, sometimes you can put in a library, and sometimes you can put in the active template. Is there a difference?
So when you placed it from the DOT template library into your design file. And now it resides there. And so what you're doing is you're going to edit it in place. And if you look at the top of the dialog, it says editing roadway designer template drop. So it's editing it in place. So you're not changing what was in the library by default, you're just changing it in place. It looks exactly the same. Yeah, it looks exactly the same except for that at the very top of the dialog, it'll tell you it's editing it in place.
And the library tab is, you know, basically for selecting new ones, right? Whereas this one is, you have your parametric constraints and you have each component, so everything's broken down, so you get more detail on this, whichever one you selected active, which in this case we have the pavement asphalt existing as active. So then you can go to your parametric constraints, double click on pavement thickness, and you can set your value to whatever your existing pavement thickness is. In X says 1.9, it's actually saying negative 0.5. And then you just click OK. That's all there is to it. And you should see this in Project Explorer. So because I applied a second one, I have 2 surface templates, which is about what I expected. So here's the other way you can go to it. You can right click here, edit applied surface template, and it just brings you to the same place. You just don't have to select it in the 3D model there. This is the first one, so that has a different value.
Yeah, if you delete that one, you should see it change on here because you're looking at two of them there.
Yeah. So this one, I think this is the thinner one, 0.5. So check the value I set. Okay, so next you need to set features for the linear template. This one is, say, your existing edge of pavement. Something's out of order, but
So yeah, just to set up on this one, you're modeling two different types of things. So anything that's just got a constant depth, you can use a surface template for it. But in things like, well, really the only other thing is the curb. The curb doesn't have a constant depth from the existing terrain, right? The front of a curb is usually about 7 inches deep, but the back of a curb is about 1 foot deep, according to our standards. And we don't really know because what's in the field is in the field, but so we approximate it and what we think it's going to be. So you can't apply different depths to a shape. You can only apply one depth to it, which is what we use a surface template for. Anything that you have a constant depth on, right? So if you need to have multiple, what we came up with is using a linear template that has different depths for the front and the back. And instead of just having a constant depth, you apply what's called a linear template around an edge. And it gets kind of into the whole modeling tools that we'll be getting into later on in the day with corridor templates and surface templates and linear templates. So it's really, you haven't even learned this yet, but yet you got to know how to do it when you're doing existing feature modeling. So we put it in chapter 1 because that's the first thing you're going to do. But presumably you would have already been through training and know how to do linear templates with corridors. So that's really what this is all about, is the steps to do this.
So like with turnouts where you have 4-inch concrete with sidewalk, your sidewalk can be 4-inch all the way through.
Yeah, that would be
And then you'd be a different area.
yeah, sidewalk is the same way like we did with the existing pavement.
Shapes, okay.
But yeah, you can see the curb is done here, but you can see the height's different here versus here. So this just kind of does a cutout in the 3D model. But that way it'll show correctly in the cross sections.
It'll make more sense at the end of the day than it does right now.
Okay.
Yeah, this one is a little bit tricky. So agree.
I gotta pay attention.
All day. All day.
That's the quiz, I think.
I know.
The first 2 days were fun.
Yeah.
So here's the steps basically that you need to select the feature for the edge of pavement. So just set feature definition under existing features, choose pavement existing, and then select your elements. So that should be easy enough to demo. Pavement existing. Feature type is linear. I'm going to call it pavement existing demo since it differentiates between it. So it'll differentiate between anything else. and then right click or reset to complete. So now I just changed, this was an existing, this already had something attached to it, but you can see as you hover over it, payment existing.
If you merge those into the masters, how do you get these references?
What's that?
For the payment existing, you took those from the reference and merged it to the
Yeah, these would come in, merging to the master copy reference file levels, to the different various ways to do that. But yes, that would have been the step earlier on, is bringing all these lines over and then creating shapes from them to make sure there's no gaps.
Existing curbs can be lots of things. They can be a D curb, it's only 6
Right.
inches. It can be a F curb, 2 feet. It can be an E curb, 2 1/4 feet.
Right.
So we have one existing curb template that is just like a 1/2 foot wide.
Right.
And it starts at the very back on the ground.
Right.
Goes down a foot, and then it's looking for the inside edge of the curb or the edge of pavement. But right now, it's only at a 1/2 foot. So when you first place it, it's only going to be a 1/2 foot curve all the way around there. So then what we're doing here is we're setting the feature on the existing pavement edge so that we can add that as a reference, a target reference to extend it out and tie it.
So that's the whole purpose of doing this first step,
Yeah.
so that it has a target later on in the second step.
Yeah, and you can't external features or external references to a corridor have to be a feature.
Right.
So that's why he's adding this existing feature to the actual line that came. That line comes out of the server ID on a level. It doesn't have a civil feature associated with it. That's the whole point. Yeah, good point, Art.
Yeah, I'll show you the cross section view so you can see what all these add up to in a minute. So the other step, this starts to get into the creating corridors, but you then use the feature that we just created, like say for the edge of pavement alongside the curb. You can then use that to add a corridor reference. Actually, in this one, you're adding. This is the backup. So let's just go to the viewing the cross sections. That one's fairly easy. So you guys can do this with me. But it's also exercise 1.11. I'll demo it first, and then you can do it. So that's the last one in this. So you just select I think in this case we want the corridor, if I remember correctly, but it might help if I have the alignment showing.
No, in this case, what I would do is I would just create a line out there somewhere that you want to cut cross sections about. Usually it'll be a baseline.
Yeah, that's why I was going to show the alignment. This one you just do the alignment.
There's a baseline out there somewhere. If there was, it would be in the topo file. Yeah, there's one in the topo file. The topo reference.
Oh, all these levels are turned off. That'd be the problem.
Click on your reference envelope, the topo.
Yeah, I thought it did. Alright. So since we're working from the Chapter 6 file, you guys may need to do this as well. It's probably not going to be showing up, so you'll have to go into your level display. Make sure that in the reference manager that topo is turned on, the view, and in level display, select the topo, and the easiest way is just going to be right click and turn all on. Then we have an alignment that we can pick, so let's just pick SR61, set and offset. go to the right-of-way line, which looks to be about 45. Right is probably going to be more than that. I'm going to set the right to about 105. And just pick the station you want to look at first and select it. It's going to roll, let's say 50 feet. And you need to select your cross-section view. One way to do it is just click hit. Wow, it's not crashing on me. Yes. I'm going to wait, but I was going to say hit F4, but maybe I don't recommend that because it might crash. So I work to just bring up all 4 views, but on this one you could just turn on view 4 or view 3, so you have an extra view in there. That's what I had to do because 4 didn't want to work.
Do you have, did you override your function keys? Can you see? No?
Don't think so.
Just go to Geopack, I'm sorry, Workspace function keys.
It's kind of.
And go to File Open. No, it's set to the right one.
Yeah,
So is it where you want?
this is just this one, right?
Yeah.
Payment
So,
service, subsurface.
You sure you were hitting F4?
Yep.
I believe it.
I did it twice and it crashed twice, so it's.
The machine has stage fright.
I think so. I'm not going to do F4. I'm just,
You can always blame it on the OT.
add the view, adding the view here. So fewer issues. So let's go back to open cross sections in a view. Select my alignment. Left offset, right offset. We're going to start at this station. You can do an even station if you want, but I don't really care. Then accept all the options that you've set. Then select in the additional view that you created or that you've added.
Or how do you get rid of those yellow dots?
That one is. Oh,
The
gotta remember
easiest
how to
way
do that.
is-
How do you determine if you can't hover over it? That's going to freeze, right?
Yeah, if you hover over it, it freezes.
So those are, what those yellow dots are the lines, the profile lines that are in the model. So if there's a 3D line in the model, if you were to cut a section through a 3D line, what would you see? If you were to just slice through a line, what would you see in a cross section? A tiny little dot.
Yeah.
You would never be able to see that dot in that view. So we override the little dot with actually a point cell of a weight of 5. And for some reason, if you hover over that thing and try to zoom at the same time.
Code blue.
And so if you want to turn those off, you go to the Project Explorer, look in the 3D lines folder and turn that off. Corridor 3D lines. Just turn all that stuff off.
Turn all these off.
Now update your view over here. Just go forward or backwards. Oops, you went all the way forward. You're all the way at the beginning of that alignment, so I don't know what station. Let's see. Try 53900. And then
folder up.
Oh, okay, so, all right, so in this case, those were drawn from the 2D lines, so you gotta turn off the 2D lines folder right there. Yeah, and now update that view. There they go. Okay. Anything that's drawn to the template is gotta be in the 3D lines folder. Anything that you drew in plan and opened up a profile and set active to create a 3D alignment, you guys don't know about, that's gonna be in the 2D folder. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
But anyway, just go turn those two folders off and those dots will go away.
Because the templates already have the depth
Yes.
or the 3D component.
Yep, they come from the templates.
It's under the civil model or cover models?
Yeah, it's in the,
Project Explorer.
project, show them that again, Project Explorer.
Project Explorer, Civil Standards, and feature definitions, or under the file, and then feature definitions. And then you want to turn off corridor lines and plan 2D, both of those on the safe side.
So,
Now, the reason we have those out there is because when it's time to label things, when you plot cross sections, it has to label off of points. So you're going to want to turn those back on when you go to plot cross sections, so that when you use a labeler tool, it can label between points. Maybe you want to label the elevation of that point, or maybe you want to label the slope between 2 points. It works off of the actual point definitions. So
Rather
then you
than
need to
zooming
plot
in
it.
on that point.
Well, if you just haven't plotted it, it will pick them. It will see that they're there, and it will pick them. That knows what that point is. Otherwise, if they're not there, it just
Hang down its face.
doesn't know what you want to label. That's how that works.
Drop it, break it, put in your manual text.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can just draw it by hand if you want. Nah.
Alright, center's not working either, but so you can see all your features, like usually your traffic separator showing up in here.
So what do you? I don't mean to be taken over. I'm not going to. I'm trying not to. But one thing that I would point out here is, what don't you see in the zoom out of that cross section view? What don't you see in that view there? What would you normally see on a cross section that you don't see in that view? Yes, the existing terrain line. And the reason you don't see that is because it's not turned on in the reference that you're cutting it from. So if you go to the default 3D view, go to your references, and or you might have to do it from levels since it doesn't look like it's attached. You do it from levels and turn on the DTM-EX level.
And the topo?
It will be in the topo, yes.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
You have to right click. Okay, so it's going to be in there.
It is attached.
Yeah. Just turn them all on and then update the cross section view. And there's the green line.
There we go.
And if you look at the levels in this cross-section view, you'll see that what it's really doing is referencing the 3D view to it. So if you go to the level display in that view, you'll see that this is a cross-section view model, and it has referenced the default 3D view, which is in view 2, and that has the topo reference. So what it's really creating then is this dependent references. So anything that you have on will show in the cross section. Anything that you turn off will not show in the cross section. And that's the way this whole open roads cross section works. Whatever you have reference to that view, it could be a bridge, it could be utilities, it could be anything. You know, whatever you want to see on a cross section, as long as it's referenced to that 3D view, you'll see it. And vice versa. Turn off a level, you won't see it in the cross section. So It's the whole WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get. Yeah, so most of those tools are not going to work because it's an alignment cross-section view,
That's right. I was like, why it's working? Thanks for reminding me.
which you'll cover when we
Yeah,
get to the
we'll demo those a little bit more. A little more of those features. This is setup. This is necessary, but it's also a little bit tricky. But you know, it's just the main concepts. Get those shapes, close the shapes, and then you can add surface templates for your pavement, and then later, once you know how to do corridors, you can add a corridor for the curbs, and those are kind of the overall concepts. So everything shows up here. This is also a service template, your traffic separator. So that one's a little bit more straightforward. Now close it out. You guys all work through the exercise? Do you need more time? All right. Suppose we could do the right-of-way line. That one should be fairly straightforward.
Hey, John Mark, can you show how to turn the existing train on in cross section? Question came up.
Okay.
Another one.
So that one, you need to go to your 3D level, go to your level display. First, you need to go to your references and make sure that ServRD is showing, which it may not be in your 3D view. So open the references, turn on ServRD, turn the view on. Then in your level display, you can go to ServRD and make sure that the DTM_EX level is turned on, which it probably is not. Then you can update your cross-section view just by going forward cross-section or backward cross-section. All right, let's do the right of way. Get rid of the cross-section view, or you can leave it open. Doesn't matter. Create complex chain, but
it's
I don't know
actually,
where.
it's under the drawing.
Yeah.
For civil tools, yeah, it's in horizontal geometry tools.
Okay.
And it's on the A row, second one in. I'm sorry, the first one. Complex titles.
Were you trying complex to level?
Yeah, it comes in pieces from the topo file.
What do you need complex? Oh, to do a profile?
Yeah, to get a continuous profile of the existing ground line.
the profile be the same as just the center line?
No, because what you want is, in order to see the right of way, you know, like on our cross section, we usually like to see right of way lines, right? So the right of way lines are usually shown. You usually draw them as a symbol, either just below the turning, the existing ground, or just above it, or some, you know, there's usually a little gap, and it's really just to identify it. So in order to actually get that to happen in a cross section, we can actually model those lines in our existing feature model, and then when we slice through that 3D line, we, just like I said, what happens when you slice through a line, you get a point, and I said for most of the points we put a little yellow dot. For the right-of-way lines, we can change that to a cell, and we have a right-of-way symbol cell, so when you cut through a line that has a right-of-way line feature and view it in a cross-section, it appears as a right-of-way symbol cell. And that's how we get them on the cross sections. But they have to be at the terrain level. Right. So in 2D, they're just there. So all you do is you just add a profile to them in the 2D view that makes a 3D line in the 3D view, and then when you slice through it,
Goes back to 2D.
It thinks it's a feature, and it puts a right-of-way symbol cell.
That's why it always sits on top of the existing ground, because usually when we cut it.
If it's always going to be right at the existing ground, because that's where you set the active profile for it. You can set your active profile to be an offset from your existing
Or
ground.
proposed, maybe.
Or the proposed, yeah, if you want to. Wherever you want to show that right away.
Oh, there's another crash.
Location lines in your cross section. You just make sure the profile is set to that location in reference to your existing. So yeah, you could just go in and draw a feature line, which is a right of way line existing or something. I think it has its own folder, right away items.
All right, so I'm pretending there's a right-of-way line here.
Yeah. Turn on your 2D.
Yep, I left that on.
Now the trick here is that it's going to be within inside the terrain boundary, or you won't get a consistent profile.
All right, so there's my one right-of-way line, solitary thing. So let me add two just so I can create a chain. So you can do the complex by elements, pick your first right-of-way line.
Make sure you have the feature definition set to.
Set this to automatic, so it'll just go down the lines, assuming that there's no gaps. So you might have to do this a couple times if there's a gap. Shouldn't be a gap in your right-of-way lines. So set your feature definition. And that was not accepting it.
It's so this tool, when you use the complex tool, you have to make sure you pick at the beginning of the first line, not the end of the first line. Otherwise, you won't see the arrow going in the right direction.
Oh yeah, that's the problem.
And then it will go. Otherwise, it's already found it, so you click to accept it.
All right, so I have a chain. Now, if you're going to do all your right-of-way lines, the easiest way to select everything, this one is just one, so I can select easy, but do the right-click, select all on level by element and pick your right-of-way lines. Now this one I already set the features. So if you use the complex by elements, you can skip the section about steps 5 and 6 where you're setting the features. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and open the profile model. So if you just click on it and get the context menu, choose the open profile model. You're going to open up view 3 down here and just click in there. So now you have a profile line on your right of way, and you just need to select it and set it as active. So select the line. You also get a context menu and set as active profile. I think that should be it. It should show up in the cross sections now.
So because you did it through the existing, now it'll show up on the existing?
Yeah, if you zoom out of that 3D view over there, you'll see that 3D line he just created right there, that black line.
It's showing up now. It's a red line.
Yeah, it's the red line, yeah. The black line is the center line.
Yeah.
But so when you cut the cross section down, it'll show up on the existing?
Yes.
So how would you do that for the proposed, because there's no proposed?
For a proposed right-of-way line?
Yeah, or not proposed right away, but like.
Oh, to put it at the proposed, so you don't have a proposed surface yet, because you haven't designed anything yet. So usually they don't put it at the proposed level.
Right, they put it on the existing. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Otherwise, what you can do, like if you knew you wanted that always to show up in your cross section at elevation 4 to 5, right? So all he'd have to do is go to the vertical geometry tools, which you guys learned yesterday. So once he gets it displayed here.
I think I set my offset incorrectly,
Yeah,
which is again.
You're gonna have to create it. There you go. Just make sure you're outside of that right away line. You're locked at 45. So.
I need to make that a little bit larger. Okay, there's my right-of-way line.
All right, so if he wanted that always to be drawn at 45, elevation 45, all you'd have to do is go to your profile view over here, click on that, go to your vertical geometry tools on your civil tools, vertical geometry. Down on the bottom row, second icon in is a set for profile by constant elevation. So you click there, you locate the element, so pick the plan element, which is the right-of-way line you just drew. Click there, and now right-click, reset, and then set an elevation right there at 45. And then click in that profile view. And what that does is it creates a profile line at that elevation. Then set that white line as the active profile, and watch what happens to your right-of-way line. Now you'll have to update that cross-section. So,
Now it's floating.
so it uses whatever the active profile is. If you wanted it to be below the ground, the existing ground, you just go click on the existing ground. Yep, click there and set that active. Now go to the properties. You'll watch the line it'll update your cross-section view again. Now click on that green line in the profile view. Go to the first icon, which is properties. And there's an option to set a vertical offset. So if you set that vertical offset to -3, it moves it down. And then if you click over in the cross-section view and update it again, it sets it down below So it's just working off of whatever the actual profile is for that line.
It doesn't matter if you change the word concept for that existing ground.
No, see, because
It's
all
only
you're doing
right
is
of way.
drawing the right-of-way line.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing.
That's
So in the 3D view, it is that 3D line, which is 3 people around.
And this line is just defined by the feature definition, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, the feature definition for the right-of-way line says, when I cut through this in a cross-section view, I'm gonna display a right-of-way symbol cell from the right-of-way cell right. And you can make it display anything. That's how we do 3D utilities too.
Yeah, and we're not going to do that step in here, but that's the next exercise where you, so it's the same concept where you, if you just have a constant elevation, like say 3 feet underground, because you don't know what your, maybe you don't have any more detail, you can just do it this way. And as your feature definition is set to utilities, then it'll plot the utility
And as a matter of fact, that's
on
how
your
we
cross
display
sections.
the CL symbol or the center line symbol. We take the baseline, we create a profile of existing ground, and then we tell it when you cut through this baseline in 3D, we want you to display a BL symbol, which is labeled where the baseline is in the cross. Same thing for the proposed center line.